Right, good afternoon, Mino.
Hi, I'd say.
Thank you very much for joining us in this World Tour series for the Charlton Institute of Arbitrators Young Members Group Malaysia, where we will be exploring the ADR landscape across different jurisdictions. And we are delighted to have you for the South Korea segment. Now, for the audience's benefit, Mino is a partner at pi터앤김. He is dual qualified in South Korea and England and Wales, and is a fellow of the Charlton Institute of Arbitrators. He has acted as counsel in various international arbitrations, conducted under a wide variety of rules, including the ICC, SIAC, KCAB, and JCAA, covering disputes from all around the globe. Very happy to have you, Mino.
Thank you for having me. It's a huge delight to be part of this series.
So let's jump into the first question. Could you tell us how popular ADR is in South Korea? Are there defining features that you think arise from the jurisdiction?
Yes, ADR is very popular in Korea, I would say, for mainly two reasons. I think one, Korea is very trade dependent. Its international trade forms a huge part of Korea's economy, hence a lot of international transactions, international contracts, international disputes, and very often arbitral rules, arbitration is chosen as the method to resolve a dispute. The second reason is that Koreans, on the one hand, love to negotiate and reach settlement before a dispute really escalates and formalizes. But once Korean companies reach a point where they decide, okay, this has to be fought out, this has to be fought until the end, they're not shy of initiating a dispute and fighting until the end, up to the hearing. So we see a lot of cases in this jurisdiction, as a result of which the arbitral community and arbitration practitioners are very active and have gained a lot of experience.
Thank you very much. Well, it sounds as if then that arbitration is very popular in South Korea. I mean, there's always this perception that South Korea is one of those jurisdictions which people tend to label as non-litigious. I mean, do you agree with that statement?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that statement. It might be biased because I am a disputes lawyer and everything that lands on my desk is already so well cooked that it's ripe for dispute. But even putting aside that layer of bias, I think Korean companies are very commercial. They were influenced over the last 20 to 30 years by American culture. Many people have studied in the US, have pursued an MBA, an LLM, or other courses, or the culture itself has changed dramatically over the last 20, 30 years. People are more outspoken and are not shy of really going into disputes to resolve a commercial conflict. So I wouldn't say that Koreans are non-litigious in the sense that people would think they are or think they would be.
I think that's a very interesting overview, which brings me then to my next question, which is, how did you first get involved in ADR? I mean, bearing in mind the landscape you've just mentioned.
I grew up in Germany when I was young and lived in Germany for 10 years until 7th grade. I went there when I was a baby and stayed there until 7th grade. Came back to Korea and always wanted to do something Germany related or Europe related or international. I had that in the back of my mind. Then had the experience in undergraduate to do a moot court sort of activity. It was public international law, it was just a moot court. And I enjoyed the experience immensely. Those two backgrounds combined together, I thought, if I do something for work that gives you a similar feeling, that would be quite nice and exciting. And I took the risk, have chosen international arbitration when I joined the law firm, to find out that it is actually quite similar to what I expected it would be. Very vibrant and very exciting. So I was satisfied and remained in this field ever since.
And I think that's a very important reminder to law students in particular of the importance of mooting.
Yes. Mooting is a great way to have a flavor of this work, because I tell students, you tend to think that mooting and actual practice is very far apart, and this is just a Bismuth question. You wouldn't think this comes up in reality, but actually it does. It has a lot of similarities, I think, and it's great to experience that. The other thing is the network of students and people you get to meet and make, and the energy you feel is also a great experience. So I'm promoting. I would strongly recommend having a mood experience if possible.
I think that's an excellent recommendation. I mean, then what about the transition though from your time as a junior practitioner to where you are today, a partner at Pi터앤김? What would you say there was an effort that you did as a junior practitioner that kick-started your career in ADR?
Not really, I would say. I was diligently doing the assignments I was given. I was lucky, however, that I started working at BKL in 2012. And by coincidence, our team got a construction case. And I was assigned to that case. By coincidence, in the same year, our team got another construction case. I was assigned again. And as you would know in a law firm, if you have done a certain thing twice, you are called the quasi-expert, and things land on your desk. If you do things 3 times, then you are called an expert. So I kept being interested, and I was very actively, sort of proactively working on those cases. But I didn't do anything really special in my junior years, I would say, which, however, I think is not nothing, because I think I have compiled and gained over the years an internal reputation. And what I tell other juniors in my firm or in other firms is, as a junior practitioner, don't try to be too anxious, or don't try to be sort of too much in a hurry to build a brand or to build a name. Try to establish an internal reputation first, and let the partners promote your name externally. Don't try to do that by yourself too eagerly. Just let it naturally flow. Once you become a more senior, then you can build your brand. You can go out and network and build client relationships. But before that, don't panic. Don't try to be too anxious. And be nice to people and be diligent and build an internal reputation.
I think those are excellent points, and I think nicely segues into the role of a young practitioner. I think generally in a lot of jurisdictions, the general perception is that the ADR field tends to be dominated by senior practitioners, which thereby leaves few opportunities for junior practitioners. I mean, you've mentioned obviously the need to seize the moment as a junior practitioner, and certain tips that you should adopt as a junior practitioner. Do you see, well, I guess it's a 2-part question. The first one is, do you actually agree that in South Korea, with the perception that the ADR field is generally dominated by senior practitioners? And if so, what do you think young practitioners can do to carve a spot for themselves in the industry?
In response to your first question, I'd say the Korean arbitration market is dominated by senior practitioners, or has been so far. But at the same time, it's transitioning very quickly to the next generation, who are mostly at least bilingual, if not trilingual, and have the experience of having lived abroad, are very natural with communicating with people from other cultural backgrounds. So it's transitioning very quickly. I think the strength that the younger generation has comes from there. They have the experience of interacting with different people, people from different jurisdictions or background, which I think is very, very helpful in persuading a diverse tribunal. The tribunal members are not three homogeneous judges with the same background. They're very often three different people from three different jurisdictions, different backgrounds, different thinking, different fields of interest, and so on. And being apt to communicate with different people is, I think, is a quality that's beyond being a nice person in a group. It really affects the advocacy of your case. And I think the younger generation in Korea or globally have the advantage of having that exposure, or having that background of meeting and mingling with people from all around the world from earlier days. So I think there's quite a huge potential for the next generation.
And I concur with all of that. And I do think that the mingling and exposure is necessary for the next generation of ADR practitioners to propel themselves forward. I mean, you're obviously a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Throughout your years of practice, do you feel that joining the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators has helped bring your ADR career to where it is today?
I don't know whether it's a coincidence or whether it's a logical sequence, but I became fellow of CIArb last year, and immediately thereafter was listed in the KCAB list of international arbitrators, and immediately thereafter got my first appointment. I don't know whether it's a coincidence because I was so ripe and got my name out one way or the other, or whether my FCIArb title helped me. But I think it did help me in getting my first appointment. So again, I wouldn't advertise that becoming a fellow of CIArb necessarily leads into your first arbitrator appointment very quickly. Might be a coincidence. Maybe you have to pray very hard, I don't know. But in my case, it was all done in a very short time span. So I think it was relevant.
And thanks for that. I think the last question which I had, building from what you just mentioned, is, what is the young arbitrator space like in South Korea? Are you seeing a lot of young arbitrators being appointed in the jurisdiction?
It circles back actually to your first question, which is how litigious are Korean companies, Korean parties. They are quite litigious, meaning the KCAB has quite a significant workload and a diverse palette of cases, such that not only mega cases, but small cases is in their roster, and they get assigned to the next generation practitioners, such as myself. So the younger generation in Korea, including myself, they have a lot of opportunities to get their first appointments, let alone do a lot of oral advocacy in hearings as counsel. So we have a lot of opportunities out there, yes.
And just as a closer, what would you think is a key tip or key tips for getting your first arbitrator appointment in South Korea?
Again, I don't know whether this is a secret recipe, but providing a general advice, if there is an opportunity to do something with and for the KCAB, be it a speaker in a webinar or be it some other project, try to get your name out and do something for the KCAB, which I think will help getting you exposed in the market. And if there is a smaller case, I guess the secretariat would be more likely to appoint someone whom they've heard of instead of some unknown name. So try to do some activities better for the KCAB if you could choose.
I think those are very wise words, and I think that's all the time we have. Thank you again, Mino, for...
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
No. Thank you so much for your insights, and for the members of the audience, do look forward to the other parts of our World Tour series, and do tune in. Stay in touch.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.